All right, then. 3, 2, 1.
It feels like Miami. Miami, 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 Miami. It feels like Miami.
Welcome to the Heat Beat Podcast. I'm your host, Giancarlo Navas. And with me today, to my left, is our professional screw-up, Alex Toledo.
Yo.
And on the bottom of the screen, you know him, Heat Twitter favorite, friend of the show of Miami Heat Beat, ESPN Zone, Jorge Sedano.
What's up, man? I'm impressed by the fancy beats you guys have to start the show. It's like you guys are a real production now.
Listen, I got a stream producer now. We're on stream. We're doing stream productions. Things are looking up, George. We're different. It's times have changed in the last 7 years.
I love it. You're no longer a little startup, the little engine that could.
Giancarlo put the team on his back.
Yeah,
by the way,
sounds like it. I hope that's not the case because we know how that'll end.
Yeah.
Oh, buddy, it is the case. It's not Brian.
What happened?
Said it is the case because it's not Brian.
But poor Brian. If you're listening to us on Spotify or Apple Podcast, you can check us out on YouTube as well, and also our Twitch feed, twitch.tv/MIAHeatBeat. We're going to be doing live shows all throughout the season. Free agency special coming up probably on Friday or Saturday. We're going to let you know on our Twitter account at MIAHeatBeat, and follow our Instagram. We have new stuff coming out. We're working with designers now. We've hired people, George. We're a money-making operation.
Wow. Look at that. Look at that.
All right. So let's get to the nitty-gritty of stuff. Also, shout out to the Blue Wire Podcast Network who makes all this happen for us. So, George, the reason I'm having you on is so that you can yell at me because last night I tweeted out because I felt like I had to have some sort of intelligent reaction to the pick that the Heat made of Precious. And I said I was not really happy with the pick. I wanted them to get a guard that could defend a little bit instead that they took Precious. And I kind of... George, I've come around on it a little bit since we've talked, and
right.
I've been sold a little bit that he's not a center, that they probably view him more as like a 4-man who could play next to like a shooting big and that he could develop his jump shot. It's still not like I'm not like in love with the pick, but I'm kind of curious like how you feel like the next day.
I still feel the same way I felt last night when I was going back and forth with you on Twitter. You need size and you need versatile size, and I think that much like Bam was in the early stages of his career, I think that Precious has some of that to him, right? Like he actually is a better 3-point shooter in college than Bam ever was. Bam, I don't even know if he took any threes in college because we know Giancarlo wants guys to play very, very specific roles. So I think he can develop. I think he can be a 4. I think he could be a 4 that can shoot threes eventually. We've seen this team and their development program going way back to the days of Ike Austin, for God's sake, right? Like you can find names, over the last 25 years where guys have been developed. I mean, you don't have to go as recently as Duncan Robinson or even Kendrick Nunn, right? Like you can go back every year and probably find at least one guy on the roster that developed into a functional NBA player. But when you take a guy at 20, your argument was that you should fill a need. And I'm like, first of all, in the NBA draft, I don't believe you should ever fill a need. No matter what position you're taking, you take best player available and you figure it out. You only have 15 guys on a roster and we play in an era of positionless basketball. So, in a situation where Miami just got destroyed by a team that went small with the best small ball 5 in the sport and LeBron James also on the same roster, and you look at the way the rest of the East looks like, where depending on what happens with Toronto, right, your squad, we're going to call them your squad. The Heat are not your squad. The Raptors are your squad.
He only gets defensive about one team. It's not,
right?
it's not the Heat.
Right. We know that you're a fraud. Okay. If this were the Dan Le Batard show, the Kentucky Fried Chickens would be coming out.
Oh yeah,
right
absolutely.
Now.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So, depending on what happens with their big man situation, they're probably going to have multiple big men in a lineup, right? It might still be the case, even with Chris Boucher, right? Like that they could still have a guy like Siakam and him on the floor together. That's very, very possible. So you have them. Clearly, Philly has, Embiid and Simmons. I mean, Simmons is not your traditional point guard. He's 6'10", for God's sake, right? The Nets are going to play DeAndre and KD together, very likely. And if they keep Allen, they'll have Allen on the floor with him. Like, you're going to have a lot of teams you're going to have to compete against that have size, including Milwaukee, who plays Brook Lopez and Giannis Antetokounmpo. So having multiple guys who are versatile, or who could develop to be versatile, who can then compete from a size perspective, athleticism perspective, makes all the sense in the world in today's NBA.
So my main thing was about the fit, and because I just didn't envision him playing with Bam. And now my thing with him still is he was a very good shooter from the corners in college, and Heat bigs don't shoot from the corners typically. They run their pistol action out of there, and the bigs are usually up top running handoffs, or they're screening for their horn sets. So his area of shooting strength is not where
somebody
he's
mentioned
been good at, but that's
on Heat Beat last night that also he can shoot from the wing.
No, he can't. It's the left corner. I looked at the numbers this morning. Brian may have said that, but it's well.
But
corner.
I mean, first of all, what kind of volume are we talking about here?
No, I mean it
seems like he's
volume,
more willing to shoot than Bam was at that point.
No, yeah, he's way more willing. He's a more willing
Correct.
shooter than Bam, which I think is good. I think 100%
and
that is good.
That was my point to start this. Like, he's already ahead of the curve in regards to his outside shot than Bam was. And Bam has developed to be a consistent, 16, 17 foot shooter now. And I think that will only expand even further. I think Spo's goal is to have 5 out. You know what I'm saying? Like when he had Battier and Bosh and LeBron and Wade and Allen and all those guys, like that is the goal. But to have even more athleticism than they had back then.
So he walks in their best athlete, right? Like, I mean, him or Bam, I guess. But like,
Correct.
as in terms of and an open court player, I mean, they haven't had a guy that's elite in the open court since LeBron. It's been a weird kind of situation for them.
Right, because Bam is not a great finisher, interestingly enough.
Even though he's strong as hell, it's like, it's crazy. I mean, you saw at the end of Game 6 against Boston when he decided that he was going to go to the basket. I mean, how he was overpowering those guys. Poor Daniel Tice.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, like, I look at this free agent class, and I look at the guys who are probably going to be open via trade, and I just don't really see an answer for their point of attack defense, and that was kind of my thing last night, which I've walked back, because I 100% agree with everything that you're saying, and I've kind of rethunked the way that I look at him and kind of the shooting, and he could play more before.
This is not going to be that much. This isn't going to be as much fun as I thought it was going to be then, if you're just rethinking everything. And now it
kind of hit me later. I got to be honest, it was Leif. It was Greg Sylvander of 5 on the Floor. We were talking, and he was like, the Heat might look at him like kind of like Jeremy Grant. And I was like, I was been watching some film on him today, and I was like, I kind of see it. I see it.
It's the best comparison
I see the need for an athlete. Huh?
I mean, that's the best comparison for him. Like, he's so athletic. I mean, he's going to be able to switch onto like 4 positions right out of the gate, even though I don't know how much he's going to play next season. Like, the guy also gives you rim protection. He seems like I think of him like as a hybrid big. Whereas Jeremy Grant, I guess he could play small ball 5, but I look at Precious as someone who could eventually grow into a 5 with a couple seasons into the league, especially because like rim protection is one of his strengths. He's a good rebounder. He's got a 7'2" wingspan. I think of him as somebody who could be the backup 5 whenever they do it, and somebody who down the line, whenever he can develop a catch and shoot 3 or a consistent enough one, can eventually play stretches with Bam. At the end of the day, he fits perfectly into a switch defense, and being able to throw in another big when Bam is off the floor. I mean, we saw in the finals when Bam got in foul trouble in the first quarter, it just became target practice. It was just a layup line. And I know like the defensive game plan sharpened up and they got better at it. But if you're putting Olynyk and Myers Leonard as your only other non-Bam bigs, like that's a problem. So I think there is kind of a fit here, and I think it's a fit thing because they need defenders and they need guys who can play behind Bam, and it's also like a prospect thing, I think. And you like Jeremy Grant a lot, G, don't you?
That's basketball hipster. Listen, Alex has been calling me basketball hipster for like a month now, and I've fully embraced the role. I am basketball hipster.
Simply a month. That's it.
This is a bit that just recently started. It started to hit me. Like, I'm in love with Paul Millsap, like all the basketball hipster guys. I want Jeremy Grant.
I mean, but you're like way late on Paul Millsap. I feel like you should have been in love with Paul Millsap like a decade ago.
George, the Paul Millsap was the reason why I believed in those Atlanta teams. Like, I legitimately believed in my heart of hearts that Atlanta team was going to beat Cleveland because I loved Paul Millsap so much.
Yeah.
Your face is, no, I'm a sucker. I'm totally a sucker. Yeah, I mean, I believed in the Raptors and the Hawks for way too long.
But ultimately, look, Alex nailed it. Like, this is a perfect scenario for them because they can duplicate some of the stuff that they do with Bam, or the way they brought Bam along, right, with this kid, except he's already ahead of the curve from a shooting perspective. And I know, Alex, you're sitting, or not Alex, Gianni, you're sitting there saying that, that their bigs don't shoot from the corners. Like Spo doesn't evolve over time. Like that isn't something he can find a way to create those opportunities for him if that's where he's most comfortable. Like, you're talking about the guy who's the best coach in the league right now, who's constantly been adapting really since he took over. So, yeah, I don't think that is an issue. Like, I don't think Eric is married to any one thing anyway.
I also really like him as like a dive partner for Dragic. Like, if he's
sure,
assume he's gonna come off the bench with Dragic, and like that's a nice athletic target that Dragic hasn't really had since Hassan.
What was your alternative? Maxey? Is that your
Maxey or Desmond Bane? But yeah, you're right. I mean,
listen, I like Maxey. I spent a lot of time with Maxey and Edwards, actually, Anthony Edwards, who went number 1. I did a feature for them or with them on ESPN, and I spent a couple of days with them. Maxey's a great kid, number 1. Maxey is an excellent defender, number 2. He still has ways to grow into his body, like his shoulders. Like, what you've seen on TV is not anything like what you can see in person. Like, he's built like a V. It's insane. And look, the shooting in the times I was around him, and I saw private workouts, and obviously I was there at the pro day too. Like, his shooting is better than people think, and I think he's going to be a really good player. But I could understand if you're the Heat, they're very much, let's go by our board. And I think they had Maxey on their board. I just think they had Precious rated higher than Maxey because I think they look at Anthony Davis and they look at what just beat them, right? And the versatility of Anthony Davis. And I'm not saying this kid is going to be Anthony Davis or he's going to be Kawhi or it's going to be anything like that, but you want to try to replicate that style as much as you can, right? Denver even though they lost in 5 or whatever it was, they had great games against the Lakers because they had the ability to have Jokic out there with Grant, right? They had the different guys they can your boy Millsap. They had the versatility amongst their bigs. And I think if you have versatile bigs who can do the stuff that Kings can do to an extent, I think that makes you so much better than most teams, right? Like, that's the type of versatility you don't see enough of on teams. Like, that's why they're called freak athletes, when they're that size and can do those type of things.
So, like, I just love the Maxey fit because, I had doubts of him, like, as a pull-up guy, but I thought, being as a spot-up shooter, everything that I've read from the draft people that I trust, he can, decently spot-up shoot, and if they are going to move off of none or if their future does not involve none, I really like that option. George, I thought for the playoffs, I thought they largely solved the point-of-attack defense issues, I think, with a lot of the frantic switching and the hard traps and all that stuff, but I don't really think you could play that for 72 games. Yeah, the zone too. Like, it's just tough to really ask your guys who are, on the north side of 30 to kind of play that style of defense for 82, 72 games, whatever the season.
Oh, for sure. You can't do that during the regular season.
So
right.
I was looking at a guy that can really get you through the regular season while not letting your record dip too much. A guy that can help you compete, can either start or come off the bench, can really help you defensively. So that was where my big disappointment came. And I looked at Precious as a bit, I said drafted into redundancy because I look at his defensive skill set and I thought of him, he's just a big that can play like Bam without the pass, and he's going to be I never thought he was going to be bad, but I thought he'd be an adequate backup big.
Remember when drafting Bam was a redundancy?
Right.
Or when, yeah. No, listen,
dude, they have a history.
I thought about it. I was wrong.
There is a history of this. Like, no joke. Like, I made the joke to you about, like, you would have drafted Chris Kaman over Dwayne Wade because they had Eddie Jones at a max contract at the time. And it really is the same thing. Like, you don't draft for need in this sport, man. Like, this isn't the NFL. Like, you don't do. And honestly, I don't even think you should do it in the NFL, to be honest with you. But I'm always a draft the best talent available, figure it out later. If you have a good system, if you have good coaches, if you have a good franchise, you will figure it out.
I think the unique thing with them is that they had 3 guys that I think we all expected to go a little earlier that kind of fell to them, between Maxey, Desmond Bane, and Precious. And
they were real close to Sadiq Bey, too.
Yeah, so like it became like, oh
And
wait a
the kid
second.
from Maryland, Jalen.
Yeah,
What's his
Jalen
name?
Smith. That was
Jalen
my
Smith.
guy, George. I don't watch a lot of college basketball, so I do a lot of the
Jalen
work
Smith?
afterward. Yeah, Jalen Smith. I thought he was going to be really nice here. I thought the fit. That was the backup big. I thought that they. So it kind of threw me off guard, but I've come around. I'm with you. I like the pick. I like the versatility. I don't know how soon he can play with Bam. George. The other thing is like they're not going to really have a real full training camp, and they're not going to have summer league, which is really going to hurt these rookies. And I guess my question to you is: have you heard? I don't know what they're going to do with the G League this year. With
I don't know
COVID
yet.
and
No, I don't. I have no idea yet. I think it's kind of a wait and see approach at the moment.
which that really hurts the rookies as well, because if he can't really get playing time right away, and if the Heat are really trying to secure a certain playoff seed in a much more competitive East, it's gonna be it's gonna suck for him that he's not gonna have the G League available to him, which we've seen the Heat use as good as any team in the league, and that's that's another thing that I was like,
man, that's
it kind
true.
of. Yeah, it really hurts.
I kept
the
saying on
development.
5 on the floor that he's going to be playing, or whoever they get is going to be playing with KZ. There's not going to be a G League. There's not going to be a summer league. Oh man, that's
So
weird.
it's like it really expedites. So like any development he would have this year, I think it's going to be slowed, and I think we should probably taper expectations a bit, which played kind of into my opinion of, well, I don't know if this guy's going to be to help them right away and play with Bam.
Can I mention some tweets I think that have some really good information about Precious? So courtesy of @HoboJ, the Jazz fan. Quote, outside of maybe Okoro, Achiuwa is probably the best equipped player in the draft at guarding the big wings in the NBA, in parentheses, LeBron, Kawhi, etc. 6'9" with a 7'2" wingspan, loose hips, quick feet, strong build, 89th percentile in covering single covered ISO, 73rd percentile in single covered post up, and 89th percentile in spot up defense. So I think you kind of look at him as somebody who, at his best is going to be able to guard 4s, 5s, big wings, switch onto guards. And the dude is a hyper athlete and is so coordinated. Like, he knows how to use the athleticism. He's not just somebody who has a high vertical like Andrew Wiggins and doesn't know what to do with it. Like, the guy jumps off the page. Like, I'm about what they can do with him.
The highlight package they showed on the draft, when Jay Billis was talking about his attributes, you saw that, like the switchability, it's staying down on pump fakes and still being able to block shots, from the strong side, from the weak side, like all over the place. Like, he was everywhere defensively. And yeah, as a finisher in transition, he's a locomotive, right? Like, I think that there's a lot of things, and I disagree with you, Johnny. I think maybe he doesn't play right away. I think this is a 72-game season, okay? And honestly, I'm not saying this because I'm wishing bad luck on the league. Clearly, I want the league to succeed because I work in the league. So I want the league to succeed as much as possible. But it wouldn't surprise me if we end up having some sort of break because the spread of the virus has gotten out of control in different parts of the country. And by the way, the Heat took advantage of that time. Even though it may not have always been physically, but mentally keeping guys engaged and prepared and getting ready for the bubble. I think that can help if we have a situation like that. Hopefully we don't, right? But if there is a situation like that, I think the Heat are clearly prepared after their experience in the bubble on how to handle and maneuver through something like that.
So last thing on Precious, and kind of to piggyback on Alex's point, like, I thought something with Giannis that's interesting is, as good of an on-ball defender he is, he's a beast helping. And I think if Precious develops into kind of that guy to guard wings, late in games, and you can have Bam help, their rim defense, as Alex said at the top of the show.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, the rim defense that you said at the top of the show, like the Heat were the best or the second best team with fewest points in the restricted area, but once teams got to there, they were shooting like the first or second highest percentage. So having a guy like Bam helping instead of being on ball is really going to help their defense.
I think that's a really good point. And also because they're going to have, like Sedano was kind of started the show with, the defensive versatility. You can slot either one of those two bigs. Obviously, down the line, whenever you figure that they can play together, even if they can't, you can slide either one of them as a drop or switch big. And also, one of Precious's strengths right off the bat is being a good weak side defender. So I think he can be the rim protector. He can be, the help guy. And I think learning in this system where they're already running such a, complex system that they are already, I think it's going to be really good for him. I think they can really slot him in whatever type of defensive scheme they want whenever he does fit into the rotation.
I'm in, George. I'm in. I'm in.
Oh well, they didn't take.
I'm in.
You know,
I'm in.
this-
I'm in.
I didn't take
Listen,
very much, I guess.
They have someone to be on the LeBron AD 4-5 pick and roll. I'm in. Listen, I'm not.
Because that is probably the most. If we had to look at a specific play that in the league, that's probably the most unguardable. It's probably that, right?
Bam and
You
Duncan.
have guys that can switch or drop. Okay, so
Yeah,
last
I
thing
don't know
before you
about
get out
that.
of here, I know you have a lot to do today.
Yeah.
Kind of wanted what the hell happened with Bogdanovic? I mean, that's been the talk of the league today, even after the draft. I mean, then they waive Ilyasova, which kind of leads me to believe that the sign and trade is kind of gone because they kind of needed that salary unless they involve a third team. It's looking rough. George, you know what happened there?
I believe Sam Amick. I mean, Sam Amick. And look, there are a lot. I mean, obviously, our guy Woj is the best guy doing it, right? And Shams is unbelievable too. Ramona, there's a million people. Mark Spears, Mark Stein. Amick is very connected. Is he Leif or Greg Sylvander?
He's Leif. He's always on this show. He's Leif.
Yeah,
okay.
He's corporate over there on 5 Reasons. On Heat, he's Leif.
Okay. Sam Amick is as connected to Sacramento as any writer because he covered that team for so long, right? So when he came out with that story in The Athletic about how Bogdanovic had no idea, right? Like he wasn't signing off on going to Milwaukee. No one had told him that was going to be the case, that this was all kind of caught off guard and he was blindsided by it. I 1,000,000% believe it. And those are details. I was talking about this on the Jump today. Those are details that are embarrassing, right? Like just ridiculously embarrassing for everybody involved, for the agents, for the two teams. Like, how does that stuff happen? It's not, one thing is dotting the I's and crossing the T's. This is not that. This is like the most important thing, like getting that guy on board, making sure he's okay with that. And I don't blame him too, because remember, he's 28 years old. He came to the league at 24 or whatever, almost 25.
Or from California to Wisconsin.
Yeah. When he was right, well, there's that too. But I'm saying, like, he came to the league. He started playing when he was 25. All right, he's 28. This is his one bite at the apple. So he's going to get this one contract that's probably going to pay him a lot of money, and he's going to want to maximize that. So if the Atlanta Hawks come in and say, here, we're going to give you $20 million, and all that the hard-capped Milwaukee Bucks can do is give you a 14.65 or whatever it is, according to Bobby Marks. Yeah, I'm looking at that over the life of a contract, and I know there's an extra year in there, but there's still more money with the Atlanta Hawks. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I think that's the type of stuff you have to look at too. And I think that all that stuff was just completely, I don't know, like it wasn't even a factor apparently when these guys were doing this deal. And I don't know how much I blame Horst in Milwaukee. One would assume because he's been there for a while, but McNair has only been there for, I don't know, less than 2 months, in Sacramento. So I think that may have been, his bad. If I had to guess, I don't know this. It's all reckless speculation. But either way, it just looks really embarrassing for everyone involved, the teams, the agent. And I don't blame the dude for saying, nah, man, I want to be a free agent because I want to see what's out there for me financially.
I went full-blown conspiracy theory that they were covering up the tampering because it just
Oh,
got
there could
really
be that.
messy.
Look, I don't dismiss that. And by the way, it'd be very much that when that story broke, that teams like, that were in the Giannis sweepstakes, and there's plenty of them, called the league and were like, what the hell is this? You know what I'm saying? Like, and it could have backfired that way.
I was working the phones.
Yeah. I don't expect that to be the case, although that is a good conspiracy theory, and you're not alone on that. I've talked to plenty of people that have a
I'm in, George. I'm in on this.
I don't necessarily buy it, but I don't rule anything out in this league. You know what I'm saying? Like that's just the way I look at it.
We're not even a day into free agency yet.
But I do look at it this way, and I said this on the Jump 2 today, and I said it on Around the Horn, that if I'm Giannis, man, I am taking my time now. If this deal doesn't go through, or they can't figure out to add another person to the Drew Holiday deal, because the Drew Holiday deal on its own is insane. 3 first-rounders, 2 pick swaps for a guy who's a very good player, but you gave up what the Clippers gave up for Paul George, basically. You know what I mean? He's a 6-time All-Star, and Drew is a 1-time All-Star. But so with Bogdanovic thrown in the deal, you can at least say, well, maybe, whatever, it's more palatable. But without him, it's certainly not more palatable. And if I'm Giannis, I'm kind of like, I'm gonna have the same deal next offseason. And Kevin Durant has proven he's, that even after an Achilles tear, you're still gonna get all your money. You're still getting the max. No, everyone's gonna pay you no matter what. So
well, unless you're the Knicks.
Well, right, they're stupid, right? But they, Kevin Durant proved that you're going to get the max even after an Achilles tear. So if I'm Giannis, there's no rush to sign the supermax now, especially after what's transpired.
George,
love
you're
it.
the man.
This is all great for the Heat.
Yeah, no, this broke great. I mean, I always see Gallinari as basketball hipster, and I'm good.
By the way, George, I saw that you're in on Tyrese Maxey, so you wanted to end with one question. Would you still rather beat the Sixers?
Let me tell you, the Sixers look good now all of a sudden.
Oh, no!
Sixers look good all of a sudden.
No!
All it took was Daryl Morey 5 minutes to say, oh, wait a second. So 3 seasons ago, Embiid and Simmons had a net rating of plus 18.5 when they had Ilyasova, Bellinelli, and JJ Redick. So, and every year it's basically been cut in half or worse. Because I think they were like plus 2 net rating last season, and the season in between that they were like plus 7 or 8. So yeah, surrounding them with shooting, shocker, is probably going to be a good thing for them.
They had to give up picks to get some fit guys.
I can't believe that only took 1 pick to get off of Horford. Like
I thought it was 2. I thought there was a second rounder.
Yeah, there was.
Too.
Was it?
Yeah, I thought
the second
was a
it's a protected second. It's like a top 17 protected pick.
I have no problem though with general managers in any sport cleaning up messes and doing whatever they need to do.
I just thought it was very little to get off. I thought that he got off really easy.
I mean, he's $80 million. It's $80 million over the next 3 years.
It's a nasty contract.
You got a functional player in Danny Green who can still defend. I mean, people can talk about his shot comes and goes. He still defends at a very high level. And he's good enough where you have to respect him.
He's defended as a shooter. He has gravity.
And Seth Curry was fantastic last year, I thought, in Dallas. So, and they get off. Look, Josh actually, I think Richardson in Dallas is going to be better than he was in Philly because it's a much better fit. He's got Luka around him now. They're not relying on him to be a jump shooter per se. They've got Hardaway to do that. They've got other guys to do that. So he's a streaky shooter, but he's a good player. So I actually think that's a good move for Dallas. But yeah, look, they added Doc. Like, Doc's a good coach. Like, I'm not trying to rip Brett. I like Brett a lot. I think Brett did a decent job, and Brett should be commended for having to deal with all the stuff that he had to deal with throughout the entirety of his time there. But we've seen this a million times over, where a team can only get so far with a certain kind of coach, and then you bring in a guy who's qualified as far as being a championship level type coach, right? Who's got better qualifications, a better resume, and they get better results. So I do think, look, I think the East is going to boil down to these teams: the Heat, Brooklyn, Philly, Milwaukee, and honestly, I think Toronto, depending on what happens, takes a minor step back. I still think they're going to be in the top 4 mix. But I don't know if I put them in the same category as the teams I just mentioned.
You didn't mention Boston either.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's my fault.
I thought that was a take.
Boston.
I thought that was
no.
Well, Gordon Hayward opted out, so I don't think they really created.
Boston is absolutely on the level of Brooklyn, Miami, and Philly and them. And yeah, like I think that like the tier would be that. It would be, in any particular order. I think the top tier is Boston, Miami, Brooklyn, Philly. Then slightly like a third of a step behind Toronto. And then a steep drop, I think, like a couple of steps behind, you have, Indiana and the rest of these teams, basically.
All those teams, yeah.
Can we laugh at the Celtics for, letting Hayward walk and they absolutely get no financial relief from it?
They could still sign and trade him. So the jury's
still
out.
They could still sign and trade. Look, a lot of crazy things can happen from here till, I mean, look, it starts on Friday, at 6:00 Eastern. So doesn't mean it all has to happen then, but
so
they've
weird.
got a
Why
couple
not
of days
midnight
to figure it out. I prefer it at 6 Eastern. It's much easier.
No, it just threw me off guard. I feel like it's not how it usually goes.
Do you not remember us up at like 1 a.m. tracking Hassan Whiteside texts with Pat Riley? Like
the year LeBron signed with the Lakers, and he didn't do it right away. Remember, though everyone assumed that it was going to be the case that he was going to go to the Lakers, but nobody knew 100%. Everybody felt confident. I was in Hawaii. So free agency actually started at 6:00 for me in Hawaii. I was in Hawaii for a wedding. My wife's friend was getting married. It was unbelievable. And I was like, so when they said 6 Eastern this year, I'm like, that's even better. It's 3:00 my time. Like, that's great. Like, forget it. So yeah, and of course, LeBron decided to send whatever the email or whatever it was, as I was literally flying back over the Pacific Ocean. And I was going to land at like 10:00 at night, LA time. And I was doing a morning show back then. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to get like 90 minutes of sleep getting ready to do this show. Like, it was just, yeah, it was crazy. But
George, I don't know how I used to do morning radio. That's insane, even down here.
Yeah, I don't love it. I got to be honest with you. I did it for a long time, both in Miami and LA. And I much prefer doing afternoons. It is so much more fun and so much better.
Poor Zaslow used to do the Heat broadcast and then wake up 2 hours later and do the damn morning show. I don't know how he used to do that. That's crazy.
My God, man.
Good,
I
yeah.
interned
I
for
mean,
the Zaslow
listen,
show. That was horrible.
I love Zaslow, but he looks like he's aged about 10 extra years doing that. Look at me. I look like
he looks like radio. How it ages you.
He looks like radio, and you know what? I don't look like radio. Why? Because
that's a face for television, baby, and a face for the Miami Heat Beat YouTube channel that you can watch all of this if you missed the VOD. George, my friend, thanks so much for coming on. I know you have a ton to do today. I appreciate the time as always, my friend.
All right, guys, be good. Stay safe, stay healthy, okay?
Take care, brother.
George. See ya. Bye, guys.
Bye. Take care. That was Jorge Sedano of ESPN. I don't think we need to do more. I think that was adequate.
Yeah.
That was adequate. Yeah, that was adequate.